Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to the Marco Gervais Show. It is Friday, August 1st. As we approach the weekend, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to today's show that will give you all the groundbreaking news across our country, across the world, where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please be sure to like, follow, and share the show with others to get this information out. I do appreciate when everyone does that. It helps grow the show as we see more downloads. So I appreciate you when you do that. Let's get ready for the best hour now that radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go. Let's hit the ground running. Joe Biden took the stage yesterday at the National Bar Association's 100th annual gala. The first time he's been seen really since he left office. And as it went, you could imagine how ridiculous it all was. Joe Biden's speech was, well, let's start off how he got out there. They introduce him, he walks out there. He has no idea where he's going. He has to be led to his chair, he's looking around, just as you saw during his presidency, right? Shaking hands in the air, turning around when he leaves the podium, just doesn't know where to go, doesn't know how to exit the stage. Thank God he didn't fall down. He made some interesting remarks, though, during this speech, shouting for no reason, shouting all men and women are created equal. Now, he's reading from a teleprompter, so it's no shock that, again, he feels like he's got to be firing up the audience. But here's some of the things that he said, and I find it interesting. He's making this debut just right after Kamala seems to be coming back into the spotlight herself. It's just very interesting. She's writing a book. She's trying to go on Colbert. Again, trying to become relevant. Again, seeing where everything fits for her. And I think Joe Biden is trying to do the same thing. They are trying to, again, rebrand themselves as these important figures of the Democratic Party. Because we don't have any leaders in the Democratic Party right now. There is nobody. So as time goes on, we have to see who is going to become the new Democratic leader. Who's going to become the main pick for the Democrats in 2028. Because we don't have anybody right now. This is just one of the many things that Joe Biden said yesterday evening. And it went as you would expect it to go. You know, glaring out, the weird look on his face, doesn't really know what he's really saying, but he knows that he's saying something that's written for him. Saying people's names wrong. But this was the part that I think was the best. I want you to hear this right now. Take a listen.
We're the only country in the world founded on an idea. An idea. Every other country is based on geography, religion, ethnicity. But we're based on an idea, a sacred proposition rooted in Scripture and enshrined in our Declaration of Independence, carved into our hearts. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout their lives. Our Constitution has helped ensure but while we never fully lived up to that idea, we've never walked away from it either.
What does that mean, exactly? What does that mean? We've never lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it either. What do you mean we haven't lived up to honoring the Constitution? There are presidents that honor the Constitution. There are presidents like you, Joe, that never honored the Constitution. And I find it funny. He says all men and women are created equal, obviously. He tries to, again, quote our Declaration, referring to the Constitution. But he doesn't connect the dots. Did you hear Joe Biden utter anything about the white people that were attacked by black people last weekend at the Chicago Music Festival? Did you hear anything from Kamala Harris? Or any of these lawyers or politicians sitting in the audience here? Like Ben Crump, like Jasmine Crockett, like Ketanji Brown Jackson? Did you hear any utterance from them that what happened was wrong? You heard the exact opposite, actually. You heard from Cincinnati's Councilwoman Victoria Sparks saying they deserved it. Yeah, it's funny how this works. This justice, right? Right? He talks about fairness. He's trying to talk about equality. But where is it when it happens? When they are presented with these instances, these attacks on public safety, on individuals, where are they? They're all in the woodwork. Nobody knows where the hell they are. Then they come out, hey, everyone's created equal, right? Yeah. To an applause. Where's Ben Crump? Is he going to be a defendant? Anyone there that was arrested? All the 5 people? No, you won't see him anywhere. Only when he can grift from people. Only when he can make a case. Against police officers, of course. That's the only time you'll ever see him. No, not in the case like this. With defendants like that have rap sheets longer than my arm. No, you never see these people. You never see them anywhere else. Only when they can make a buck. Let's listen to more.
Our Constitution guarantees a set of basic rights to every single American and sets up institutions to safeguard those rights. Next year, we'll celebrate 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But all that soaring rhetoric are just words on pages if we, the people, don't uphold them.
I thought they were ideas. I'm sorry, I thought they were all ideas. Rhetoric? Really? Thomas Jefferson just wrote rhetoric, apparently. That's something new. I haven't heard that one before.
Lawyers and judges, all of you in this room, are the first and the last line of defense doing just that. I mean it. An informed and engaged bar willing to fight for and take risks to protect our basic rights. A bench.
How about when Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, ran on saying she was going to get Donald Trump? Does that sound like she is fighting for someone's basic rights? Following the Constitution? Was she ever disbarred? No, of course not. And we saw how that case went. Completely upside. How about when... what's his name? What is his name? I keep forgetting. The DA of New York and Manhattan. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Changing misdemeanors to felonies. You never saw anything like this before. All against Donald Trump. You've never seen lawfare like this. You've never seen law weaponized like you had under the Biden administration. And of course, no Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, was the kingpin of all this. Never once did you see anyone at this event or anyone in the Democratic Party call this out. Not a single person. So keep that in mind here when we talk about fairness and equality and making history. What the hell is he talking about, this guy? What the hell is he talking about? This is all, it's all hyperbole. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he refers back to the 1960s. He talks about when he was growing up. It's so ridiculous. He actually had the nerve in this speech that was written for him, clearly. He's looking at a teleprompter. He actually had the nerve to go out and say that he befriended blacks before he took office. By the way, he took office when he was 30. Hell of a career, right? I think he was a lawyer for 6 months before he was placed on the county council that he was on. I mean, he was barely a lawyer, folks, Joe Biden. So don't let him fool you that he was this big defense lawyer, this champion of the people. Then he talks about how he befriended many blacks, right? Everyone cheers, of course. That's very interesting to me, because when he got to the Senate, he befriended people like Robert Byrd, segregationists, James Eastland, people of that nature. These are his friends. Not just people that he knew. They helped campaign for him in many regards. So Robert Byrd, who he had called his mentor, was the Grand Kleagle in West Virginia. Now, what a Kleagle is, someone who recruits people for the KKK. Joe Biden was friends with Robert Byrd. Spoke at his funeral. Do you see how hypocritical this all is, folks? It's just a bunch of nonsense from Joe Biden. Again, trying to rebrand who he was. We all know who Joe Biden was. He's a swamp fixture in Washington, D.C. And Joe Biden only looked out for Joe Biden. That's indicative of, again, the pardons he gave to his son, other people involved in all that nonsense, where he enriched himself, sending his son across the globe. Joe Biden doesn't care about the rule of law. They don't care about the Constitution or the Declaration or the country, for God's sakes. Look what he did to our southern border. And then again, the speech, he actually has the nerve again to go out there and talk about how immigrants, not illegal aliens, but immigrants now in America are getting arrested and torn from their families. That is not happening. It's a bunch of nonsense. And the whole speech was a bunch of nonsense. Welcome back, Joe. You look good. You schmuck, you. Unbelievable. The Federalist really illustrates the weaponization of the Democratic Party in this article that I have here. And it's no shock. It's no shock. Joe Biden has nothing to say about this as well. Both Clapper and Brennan said these three things in the New York Times op-ed. Each was a lie. Again, what are they doing? Trying to rebrand themselves. Rewrite history. Make you think something else is happening that isn't. Clearly. So again, after these classified documents, as it begins, further expose their roles in fomenting the baseless Trump-Russia collusion hoax, former CIA Director John Brennan and former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper are out with a new op-ed, effectively trying to tell the public, don't believe your lying eyes. So published in the New York Crimes, the known co-conspirator in all this entire hoax that ran with the story among the other left-wing media sites, the rambling screed from the former Obama intel chiefs represents a pathetic attempt to dismiss findings in recently disclosed records released by Tulsi Gabbard, the current Director of National Intelligence. Now, in summary, the materials show that there was no credible underlying intel demonstrating anything between Russia wanting Donald Trump to win the 2016 election. There was no tampering in elections, none of the sort. And these falsehoods were forcibly given by the Obama's intelligence team in this intelligence community assessment that we've talked about many times. Again, at the behest of people like John Brennan. So they begin in their op-ed. That's what it says here. It says, Brennan and Clapper predictably used their op-ed to try to draw attention away from these bombshell findings, right? One way they attempt this is by citing past Senate Intelligence Committee reports on the draft of this intelligence community assessment. And they try to state here that analysts were under no politically motivated pressure to reach specific conclusions. Like anybody gives a damn, right? Now, this is interesting to me. They try to tackle the Steele dossier as well in this finding. And for those of you that forgot, the Christopher Steele dossier through Fusion GPS in England was one of the main pieces that they put in this dossier, in this report, I should say, which was just a collection of salacious and substantiated allegations about Donald Trump, paid for by Hillary Clinton. That's where she comes involved in all this, to smear Donald Trump. This is what it was all about, to delegitimize Donald Trump. Now, this dossier was the foundational aspect of this FBI's launch of this counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign in July of 2016. This before he even took office. And of course, it was later obtained via warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. Think about Carter Page. We talked about him previously. All this is coming out. And they're trying to redact everything that's been happening. So they're writing now about this in the New York Times. In 2017, they say, this ICA report, in this op-ed, they claim, here's what they're saying. As they have under oath, by the way, they lied under oath. That's another thing that's completely wrong about all this. That the dossier was not used as a source or taken into account for any of its analysis or conclusions. That is a complete and utter lie. They included the entire Steele dossier in the ICA. And there's even a reference in it, in the main body text, and further detailed in a 2-paged annex of this report. So they clearly used it as proof. So again, it's just shocking to me that they're trying to come back and say, no, this wasn't really a part of it. I mean, can you make this stuff up, folks? 2 senior CIA officers contended that the dossier should have been omitted from the ICA because it failed to meet basic tradecraft standards. But according to the same senior official, Brennan, when confronted with this, saying we shouldn't be using this document. There's nothing to confirm that this is true. What did he have to say? He said, yes, but doesn't it ring true? So he's admitting that he used it. I mean, it's known. Oh, my God. I mean, it's so ridiculous. The final major falsehood promoted by the 2 former Intel directors said that there was no mention of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians in the assessment, nor any reference to the publicly acknowledged contacts that had taken place. Again, yes, it did. One of the annex's sentences read the following. Take a listen. The most politically sensitive claims by the FBI source alleged a close relationship between the president-elect and the Kremlin. Same thing went on in the Steele dossier. And again, Christopher Steele worked as a counterintelligence agent with Russia. So here he is throwing this information out there. And now they're talking about misrepresentations, disinformation, or what have you. They push this whole hoax on themselves, folks, and they're continuing to lie about all this. That's what's happening right now. We talk about these things. We talk about the weaponization of law. You're seeing it play out right in front of you. And where's Joe Biden? Where's Kamala Harris? Where's the next leader of the Democratic Party? Nowhere. Because they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rule of law. They only care about one thing, and that is power. And that is all they care about. So if they get smeared Donald Trump, whom they thought was going to lose, by the way. It didn't turn out that way. Then it's okay. They can release that. Again, being pushed by Obama, being pushed by Hillary, being pushed by Comey. We know all this. We know all this. But these two are the main figures in this entire thing. Now, even Tulsi Gabbard, who has brought this information forward, has stated the following. She said the implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. It's worse than politicalization of intelligence. They were manufactured intelligence documents that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was to undermine Donald Trump's presidency and subvert the will of the American people. Now, you talk about election interference. This is it right in front of your eyes. I've never seen anything like this before. We've never seen anything like this before. Gabbard said that Americans working in intelligence agencies were disgusted by Obama's attempt to frame up of Donald Trump an act of treason, which carries the death penalty, and now coming forward as whistleblowers. So now as this whole thing begins to come to light, we're seeing more people come out as whistleblowers, come forward and share their testimonies. Again, we've talked about some of these officials that have spoken against this before it came out. Now, this is no good, folks. This is no good. Now, the big thing is, will anything happen as a result of this? Is anyone going to go to jail as a result of this whole thing? Now, me personally, I think absolutely not. They're not going to let Obama go down. They're not going to let James Clapper, John Brennan, James Comey, or Hillary Clinton go down. They're not going to do that. That would be taking down the ruling elite. Will they allow that? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. You already saw John Radcliffe, our current CIA director, stating that Brennan simply made some procedural anomalies, right? Procedural anomalies. What, like lying? Lying under oath? The information that they presented about the then President of the United States was complete fabrication. And of course, they ran with it. You had Adam Schiff as their cheerleader at the Capitol, pushing all these lies, pushing, of course, the Durham reports. Think about the Robert Mueller investigation on it all. Wasting 40, 50 million taxpayer dollars, and what do we find out? Oh, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Nothing there. Ridiculousness. I mean, this is treason. In the true sense of the word, folks. This is a high crime. What was committed here against Donald Trump. So are we going to restore the rule of law? Or are the ruling elite going to be above the law? That's the question you have to ask. And how this plays out is how you know who is going to stay in charge. The media, the left-wing media, I should say, are not happy about this at all. They were complicit in all this as well. Taking the story, running with it. And we have to ask ourselves, what is going to happen next? How do we prevent this from happening again? We've seen this from the intelligence community before. Think about the Hunter Biden laptop from hell. We had 51 intelligence agents coming out saying, no, there's nothing on it. It's not a big deal. Forget about it. Right before the 2020 election, by the way. And then months later, we find out, oh, no, there's a lot of information on here. Implicating Joe Biden himself, along with the son and others. Taking money from foreign governments. How that all played out, again, it's beside me. How Hunter Biden, a drug addict, can go sit on the board of Burisma in Ukraine, taking millions of dollars when he has absolutely no experience in foreign energy, let alone energy itself. Setting up meetings with the mayor of Moscow's wife, Elena Baturina, in D.C., getting money again, getting money from people in Kazakhstan. I mean, the list goes on. China. Why is Hunter Biden traveling all over the world? On Air Force 2, Marine 2. What's going on here? Are we ever going to get to the bottom of that? How Joe Biden enriched himself through his own son. Yeah, folks, the rot runs deep. Will anything happen? No, he gets a pardon. No, he gets a pardon. Which, again, the whole idea of a pardon is not to release someone who has been found guilty of a crime. It's to release someone who has been found guilty of a crime that is innocent. Think about Julian Assange. That'd be a case for a pardon. Not Hunter Biden. Not Anthony Fauci. Not Adam Schiff. Who are traitors to the American people. Yeah, folks, the rot runs deep. And we'll see how this turns out. I have no idea how this is going to turn out as this story formulates. It seems to be staying with us. Do I think anything's going to happen? That's up to the Trump DOJ. That's up to Pam Bondi. It's all in their hands right now. And we'll know. We'll know if it's one big club, as I've often said it is, or if it is going to be justice. Will there be justice for the American people so something horrific like this doesn't happen again? Only time will tell, folks. Only time will tell. Now, speaking of time, things are not moving well as far as our negotiations with Russia. This is in Zero Hedge. It says Trump deploys 2 nuclear subs after Medvedev's foolish and inflammatory statement. Now, most of us voted for Donald Trump because we thought he was going to be a peace candidate. And now we seem to be escalating this conflict just day by day now, with no end in sight of the war ending in Ukraine or anything ending in the Middle East. In fact, the exact opposite. These things are heating up as time goes on, with no end in sight. So on Tuesday, just for some context here, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev issued the Kremlin's response to President Trump's Monday announcement from Scotland that he's reducing a deadline for Russia to agree to a peace settlement from 50 days to 10 to 12 days, thus citing disappointment in Putin for not ending or at least winding down the war. Let's ask ourselves this. Why would Vladimir Putin end this conflict right now when he is clearly crushing the Russians? We know that he's already committed airstrikes on Kiev, the capital. We know that he's advancing westward. Why would he put a ceasefire in right now when you have America in the open now selling arms to NATO to give to Ukraine that is a non-NATO nation? Vladimir Putin sees all this, folks. He's not stupid. We are actively involved in this proxy war, folks. We're sending more arms so that this war can continue on. And the only thing a ceasefire does is allow America, allow the EU, other NATO nations to, again, replenish Ukraine with more weaponry so they can continue fighting. Medvedev warned that Russia isn't Israel or even Iran, and thus that each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with Trump's own country. So we're living in scary times, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the direction I wanted this to go, as I imagine many of you as well. But Medvedev is right. You're not going to have China roll over. You're not going to have Russia just roll right over. Heck, we didn't even see Iran roll right over. With this latest conflict that, again, we championed. We were talking about peace negotiations with Iran. Right before that happened, Israel bombed them. And we championed it. So again, right when that happened, I was very puzzled by the whole thing because I thought this was going to be a historic event. We're actually going to be having peace now with Iran. There'll be no threat of nuclear weaponry. It was going to be a landmark deal. Then all of a sudden, Israel bombs them, and we're saying, hey, this is great. Well, you know, they took too long. Now, keep in mind, this happened on a Friday. On Sunday, they were supposed to meet. The minister, Ali Khamenei, I forgot his name. One of the negotiators. I think it was, I can't remember his last name at the top of my head right now. Was supposed to meet with Trump. Okay, everything is going as according. And who dies in this bombing? He does. It's again, it makes no sense. And they were championing this, and the Iranians see this? You kill a negotiator? And again, Israel's killed negotiators in Gaza and other parts of the Middle East. So all these processes that we work for towards peace, towards negotiations, towards diplomacy don't happen. And what ends up happening is more war. And I think, again, they didn't expect Iran to respond in kind. Yeah, they gave Israel quite a beating. I will say that. So now we're posed with this now. Do we really want to go to a hot war with Russia? Of course not. Why would we? Two nuclear powers? Why are we pushing ourselves in this direction? And where the hell is Marco Rubio, by the way? Nowhere to be seen. Oh, his name was Shamkhani, by the way. That was his name. It wasn't Khamenei. It was Shamkhani. Ali Shamkhani. There we go. I knew it was somewhere there. I just had a Biden moment, folks. I'm sorry. Yeah, Shamkhani just killed a negotiator. Has nothing to do with any nuclear program. Murdered. And we act like it's not a big deal, folks. I don't understand this. Now, as of Friday morning today, President Trump took to Truth Social. Again, I don't know why he's going on Truth Social and posting this nonsense. Why doesn't he sit down with President Putin and hash this out? They've had phone calls. Sit down and hash this thing out. I'm so sick of this nonsense. But he says on this truth, so I don't even want to read this to you. It's so stupid. But he's talking about, again, moving 2 nuclear subs to be positioned in the appropriate regions based on highly provocative statements. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will be one of those instances, is what Trump says. Thank you for your attention on this. I mean, what the hell is this? We're stating military propositions on Truth Social? I mean, what the hell is going on here? It's unbelievable. It really is. I don't know what Trump is doing right. I got to be honest with you. And again, I want Trump to succeed completely. That's why I voted for him. But what is this? This is ridiculous. Trump's position, based on his last remarks, is that the war should be stopped. It's a disgrace. But yet again, yet again, what is Donald Trump doing? He is giving Zelensky more arms to continue this war. Who, again, is not the elected leader of Ukraine right now because he suspended elections. His term's over. This is between now Donald Trump and Putin. Zelensky has nothing to do with it. Zelensky won't do anything you tell him to do. He is a puppet. That's all he is. That's all he ever will be. Besides being a failed, vulgar comedian / actor. What are the concessions that Putin wants? I know he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. That's one of the reasons why this whole conflict took place. But here we are. We're doing the exact same, as if they are a NATO nation, giving them arms. NATO is selling arms to Ukraine. I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, we've had this eastward expansion of NATO over the last 30 years or so, thanks to Billy Clinton starting it all off. Then we had Finland. Then we had Sweden. So what you have is all these nation states coming together as one right on top of Russia. And again, he doesn't want these NATO countries to put missiles facing towards Moscow. That's what it comes down to. So is this going to turn into something more? Medvedev has yet to respond to this tweet or text or whatever the hell you want to say about it. Not a good look, folks. Not a good look. Now, equally concerning is these tariffs and these sanctions now that Trump is now trying to put on Russia. Do you think that they're going to come to the table now and just be fine with all this that's happening? Why can't we sit down? Why can't we talk about peace? Why does everything have to be sanctions and tariffs and this rhetoric of nonsense, of war? Now, economist and longtime advisor to the UN, Jeffrey Sachs, has issued another scathing critique of President Trump's decision to unleash yet more anti-Russian sanctions, giving Moscow just 10 days to negotiate for a peace deal with Ukraine. I mean, this is so stupid. It's 50 days, and it's 10 days, and it's 12 days. I mean, who knows what's going on? It seems like every day Donald Trump gets up and decides something brand new. Again, that's not a negotiation. That's not diplomacy. That's just an ultimatum. Do as I say, otherwise this is going to happen. Now, Jeffrey Sachs is one of the more brilliant people that I listen to, of course. And we have to talk about things like unilateralism, which again is how nations cooperate with one another. This is not the way to cooperate, folks. This is not the way to cooperate. Sachs calls this policy dangerous in the face of it. And I saw that Trump and this administration is plagued by these contradictions and lack of coherent strategy for ending the war. Absolutely. We have no plan to end this war. This is why it's been dragging on the last 6 months or so. Now, despite constant early boasting that Trump would rapidly achieve peace, again, he said he would have peace done on day one. Look where we are now. sending arms to NATO to sell to Ukraine. Yep, $350 billion. And Trump acknowledged this, and yet he still is selling arms to NATO. That way NATO can buy them. I don't know, folks. It's not a good thing. The secondary sanctions aimed primarily at these nations that are still trading now with Russia are doomed to be ineffective anyway, is what Professor Sachs has stated. I agree with him 100% on this. And the reason why, and he'll explain himself in a moment, but understand this. We're talking about China, we're talking about India right now, primarily, and Brazil. All those nations make up 44% of the global GDP. That means across the globe, every country's GDP, gross domestic product. These BRICS nations now make up 44% of all that. America is roughly 22, 23% of the global GDP. A lot. We're a huge force. Make no mistake about it. But you think that now the United States is going to bully some of these other nations that have so much more capital to play with? That's roughly, just those nations alone now are double what the United States has to offer. And again, Brazil has come out and said, hey, if you're going to throw these tariffs on us and you don't want to trade with us, we won't trade with you. We'll just stop it. So you're seeing the pushback from these BRICS nations because, again, they're not playing ball with this. And I don't think we can bully ourselves into these agreements. I don't think you're going to see that, as we have seen many times in the past. But Professor Sachs goes on to say, if these sanctions are actually applied, they're an escalation of conflict, and therefore very dangerous. I don't believe they'll be very effective. He just says, I don't think we're going to stop Russia from selling oil, gas, and other commodities to these Asian markets. And I agree with him. They have huge markets elsewhere. I mean, you're not going to break these economic blocks up, folks. It's just not practical. Not practical. And I guess only time will tell what will result from this. If they do cave, if India does cave or what have you. But they were talking about putting on 500% tariffs on nations that, again, trade in these sectors, right? The oil, the gas, other commodities, with 500% tariffs. So if China continues to trade with Russia, you're going to slap on a 500% tariff on Chinese imports to the United States? Now, just for context, ladies and gentlemen, if somebody throws in, a 500% tariff on products coming in from China, you're going to have, say you get something for $10 you buy from China, right? Every time you buy it, it's $10. Great. Wonderful. That's going to be $50 now, that same product. Do you really want us to? I mean, that's going to kill the economy. I don't think Trump can do it. I think we can hold up to it. It's just something it's just simply not going to work. I don't believe. And likewise, since we're talking about the economy, let me tell you about this article in The Hill right now. It says that markets fall further on Wall Street as jobs report revisions set off economic alarm bells. I've been telling you about this. I've been telling you about this whole time. I said, listen, we have brick and mortars that are empty right now. You have people working remote. You have empty buildings. We're not bringing the manufacturing back just yet. It's in the works, but it's not back yet. We've got to get it back. I think Donald Trump can bring it back. I hope he brings it back. Then we'll be moving. And again, this is going to take some time. We just came off the Biden economy for the last 4 years of complete stagflation. We had low economic growth. We had very high inflation, much higher than the 9.1% that was always told to you. We were definitely somewhere in the mid-20s, 30% range, at least, I'd have to say, under Biden. But now we have stock markets plunging today on Friday after a weak jobs report and a major downward revisions to May and June employment figures. The U.S. only added 73,000 jobs in July. And the unemployment rates stayed flat at 4.2%. Now, let's understand what this means. We talk about the unemployment rate. And it's staying flat. Okay, right? That's good, right? We want it to stay flat. But here's what most people don't tell you, is that the unemployment rate only looks for people who are actively looking for a job, that want a job, that can't get a job. We don't know how many other people are simply out of the workforce and just not looking for a job anymore because they've given up. Or it's easier to collect social welfare benefits. We don't know that. But what I look for every time, because the only thing I'm really concerned about, is the labor force participation rate in the United States. Now, in the month of June, it was 62.3%. That means 62.3% of Americans were working as of June 2025. That number decreased to 62.2% in July of 2025. So we had less people working from June to July. So understand that, folks. We want that number to go up. That's where we want to see that. And yes, we have to account for people who've retired, people, of that nature. Obviously, that's going to happen. We're never going to have 100% labor force participation, but we want that number up. We want that number to go up. So the job growth in May and June were also far lower than first reported, according to the Labor Department, which shaved 258,000 jobs of its past two reports. The Bad Jobs News Report followed President Trump's Thursday night announcement of higher tariffs. And of course, these rates on dozens of nations that hadn't yet agreed to these trade deals with the United States, right? We're talking about reciprocal tariffs now that were set to take place today on Friday. The new rates will now take effect August 7th. So again, we see, hey, you've got till this time to make a deal. Now you got till next Friday. So again, nations don't know what's going on. You have employers that don't know what's going on. You have a separate executive order now that Donald Trump sets the Canadians' tariff to 35%, 10 points higher than he previously announced. So nobody knows what's going on. And while some people still champion, yeah, that's giving it to them. But businesses don't know what's happening. So again, they don't know. Do I expand my business? Do I start, cutting back? What do I do? I don't know what to do. Do I hire more? Do I give bonuses this month? Do I not? What do I do? Do I have to downsize? People don't know what's happening. And we talk about what a tariff really is. Anytime you hear the word tariff, I want you to think tax. That's what a tariff is. It is a tax. It is a tax on the goods that come in. And of course, the duties are collected the moment they hit the port, right? So China sends all that money over for that 25%, 50%, 500% tariff, should they agree to it, and anything that comes over. So all that money is already paid to the Treasury, folks. All that money's collected. The problem is, where does that difference come from? And you have to ask yourself, are the Chinese markets going to take a 500% hit? No, they're going to go broke if they do that. There has to be some sort of profit. So now if it costs them 35% more, either, again, they have to pay for it, or someone else has to pay for it. And guess who has to pay for it? Most of the time. You, the consumer. So I hope you're happy about the, Canadian tariff rate of, 35% now, because you're paying 35% more on anything you buy out of Canada. So I guess you can champion in that. I guess you can be happy that the tariffs are generating billions upon billions of dollars. Okay, that's one way to look at it. You're already taxed through the roof. State tax, property tax, federal income tax, sales tax, this tax on this, tax on... how many taxes are you going to pay? Meanwhile, your dollar's plunging and your purchasing power is going down. Yeah, that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening. Total stagnation of our economy. So if Trump is going to do this, if Trump wants to make some sort of tariff to pay down the debt or what have you, generate more money to the federal government, he needs to actually go through Congress. I've said this before many times to you. I'll say it again for the people that are new that are listening. He's got to go through the proper channels of Congress. We can't keep going back and forth to, 35% here, 10% over here. Makes no sense. And that's why it's not working. That's why you're seeing constantly these things keep getting pushed back. 50 days. Now it's 10 days. Now, no. We're going to wait till September. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So no one knows what's going on. Now, if it goes through Congress, then it makes sense. There's a debate about it. What's going to happen? People can weigh in on this. Economists can weigh in on this. The people can weigh in on this. But when you have just the executive branch issuing tariffs, which again, it's not Donald Trump's job. He can sign it into law, of course. But he should not be the one, again, initiating what they should be. He can tell Congress what he'd like them to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But there should be something going through the works. There should be a paper trail that we all can see. We're not seeing that. That's why he can wake up one morning and say, no, it's going to be 10 points higher than what I said the other day. And it's going to be a week earlier. Again, it's not diplomacy. It's ultimatum, I guess. That's the only thing I can say to you on that. So we'll see if these investments from Japan, South Korea, the EU, start to boost the economy. Start to bring back these manufacturing jobs. That would be the best alternative I can think on all this. And again, it's good that we're initiating our own oil. Again, opening up permits, of course, being energy independent would be fantastic. This is the Wall Street Journal. It is in the opinion section, which I very, very rarely read because, again, it's usually filled with stupidity. But this one caught my eye, so I want to read this one to you. It says that a Nixonian Trump offered to China. The president wants to break up the Moscow-Beijing axis. I think he's wishful thinking on this one, if I must say so. And it says here that the U.S.-China trade negotiations adjourned. They're meeting in Sweden this week to consult with their bosses. But is there something more than the trade deal afoot? There's some reason to think that President Trump is hunting for a larger diplomatic breakthrough to pull China from supporting Russia. It's not going to happen. It is simply not going to happen. Now, of course, this frustrates Donald Trump that he hasn't been able to negotiate an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. Again, because, he is putting more money into it, putting more arms into it. That's why it's going to continue on. As long as we keep funding Ukraine, the war goes on. The longer we take to go sit at the negotiation table with Putin, the winner of the war, the war goes on. So it shouldn't be a shock to anybody. So again, he's changed his policy on arming Ukraine and to set a deadline, to impose new sanctions. Again, they're going to try to put these sanctions on China, as I mentioned before. So Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said that Trump wants a big deal with China that eluded him in the first term. Bessent also said no doubt his secondary sanctions and this bill will be pending in the Senate now. Again, here's where I got the 500% number. The bill would impose tariffs up to 500% on countries that support Russia's war machine by buying its oil and buying its gas. China and India are, of course, on the bill's two main targets. Now, they're all original BRICS members, by the way. China, India, Russia, Brazil. And again, if Trump endorses the bill, it would sail through the Senate with a huge bipartisan vote. I have no doubt on that. But here's what they say next. It says the sanctions would hit these economies hard. And again, that's if they continue to trade with us. But then I say to myself, people are not going to buy these goods, or they're going to send less of it. Because again, who is going to buy? Again, if you're buying something that's $10, and all of a sudden it's $50, that other item that may be from somewhere else that's much, much cheaper is probably going to be your more available option. More times than less. So they're not going to make any money off it. We're just not buying those products from these countries. That's what it comes down to. Now, as I said to you before, the BRICS nations right now, with all the states that are involved in it, are a much bigger market than what the United States has to offer. It's 2/5 of the world's global economy, are these BRICS nations. And now you're going to tell them to break ties with Russia? I don't see that working, folks. I don't think that's going to work. No doubt these sanctions will hit these economies hard. It goes on to say that India got the message this week after President Trump warned against oil purchases from Moscow and threatened a 25% tariff on Indian goods. Reuters reported that Indian state refineries then stopped buying Russian oil this week. China showed when it withheld rare earth minerals that it had more trade leverage. And again, that's what they're using because they are the biggest producers of it. We want that, but they're the ones who are in the lead there. But secondary sanctions would still hurt China at the moment when its economy is far from robust, I guess just like ours. A long-term trade truce with the United States that repealed some of Trump's tariffs would be welcome in Beijing. Yeah, they want people to buy these goods. That's what it comes down to. That's what they want. So, do I think that we'll stop trade with China? I doubt it. I doubt it. We get so many of our goods from China. There was so much outsourcing to China. Thanks again to Bill Clinton. But the article goes on to talk about Richard Nixon, who I admire as a president, by the way. And he says that Mr. Trump has long admired the way Richard Nixon exploited China-Russian tensions to end China's isolation during the Cold War. One of the reasons that he said this was he wanted to settle the Ukraine conflict, and he thinks that this is the drive of what drove Russia and China closer together. Bringing up this access could possibly drive Russia into bargaining with a deal on Ukraine. So understand this. When Richard Nixon said this as well, he said that the Chinese are interested in one thing, the main thing they're focused on, always. Their number one interest is China. How is China going to benefit from this? What is the best deal for China? And they go to that deal. So naturally opening up trade with China, with the United States, was a major deal. You have two major populations now trading with one another. Now, originally, I think in the long run, it's been a much bigger win for China, of course. But the idea, too, was that China sees how a free market works, how freedom works in America, and they'll become more like us. But the problem is, in the last 30 or so years, we become more like them. So Nixon wasn't wrong to open up trade with China. It's just that the powers that be in the United States have turned more to communism than they have capitalism. And that's the biggest fault here. So will China bend the knee? I don't think so. I don't believe so. Maybe you get India, as I said, to stop buying their oil, at least ostensibly buy their oil. We know that Iran's still buying Russian oil. But I don't think you're going to see China totally move away from Russia on this. I don't see that happening. They're in too tight with each other, and I don't think they're going to do it. I just simply don't think that's going to happen. Now, speaking of China, this is interesting to me. I'm just going to read this quickly to you. This is in Breitbart. It says, China debuts 15-point birth-friendly plan to reverse collapsing fertility rate. And I sit here and I think about this. I say, look at China. Clearly a nation that wants to become the world leader in this century. And it says here the municipal government of Beijing on Thursday rolled out the latest effort to reverse China's demographic decline. A 15-step plan to create more birth-friendly society. Yeah. And I think about our society. We have Planned Parenthoods. that have murdered 63 million and counting Americans. And yet we're told we need to import more people because, well, we just don't have the fertility rates up. We see the opposite happening. We see our nation is in decline because we don't invest in our youth. We see another nation that is investing in simply everything, from the military to fertility now. So China's state-run Global Times reported the 15 measures that include more insurance coverage for labor, stronger birth service support, enhanced child care, and supportive child care policies. Most of these policies seemed designed to make young couples less fearful of the cost they would incur by getting pregnant. Hungary does this, by the way, too. Hungary wants to survive. We know this. Viktor Orban. Their nation wants to survive. But now China's going to be putting some $12.6 billion for child care subsidies. And regions like Mongolia are offering their own subsidy programs for first-time parents. We've seen something like this in America, where we're offering more in the child care credits here in the United States. But again, when you have a diminishing dollar, we have the cost of living going up, and the price of homes up and up. It makes things much more difficult for young families to get started. And that is a concern for many people. You want to make sure you can provide, obviously. That's the way it should be. And when you have to have two parents now going to work in America, in many cases, and you have to decide, are we going to have two people, both of us go to work, or pay $60,000 for two kids in daycare? You got to find ways to make things work. And, China seems to be pushing people in the realm of, we want you to have more children. We want more young Chinese. And America is saying, we'll give you a little bit, but not too much. We'll just import more people from the third world. That'll be good. That'll be fantastic. Yeah, that's what they want. And that's what they've been doing. And they've been pretty successful with that. Yeah, there it is. China's population has been urbanizing rapidly, and living in these cities is far more expensive than living in the country. This resulted in waves of young people at the dawn of their careers, in the prime of their fertility, who have vowed and viewed children as an impossibility expense luxury. Chinese studies now show the fertility rates in cities is much lower than in rural areas. Yeah, there you go. So they're going to reverse this. They're going to keep their ethnic population going. And what's going to happen in the United States? Are we going to increase our birth rate from, I think it's 1.6 right now for 100,000? Or are we going to plummet? What are we going to do, folks? What are we going to do in America? Huh? How do you want to end this? Only time will tell. We only have a couple minutes left. I wanted to go over this one article here. And anti-Israel New York City councilwoman Tiffany Cobbin was one of those arrested as scores of screaming protesters sent on the Manhattan offices of Minority Leader Schmuck Toomer and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand on Friday. Isn't that wonderful? Don't you love the protest of these people? These lunatics that, love to go in places they're not supposed to and cause chaos. I told you before, folks. It's fine to protest, but there's a place to protest. And you don't go into someone's workplace and stay just sitting or is screaming or whatever they're trying to do to occupy a space. That's a complete wrong way to do it. Folks, I do hope you enjoy the shows these weeks. I hope you'll share the show with some friends. I do appreciate when you do that. It helps grow the show. So thank you for those that are doing that. Please share the show with 5-10 people. I love when you do that. Make sure you keep your house in order. Make sure that you are, again, store up your food, water, clothing, anything you need to be self-sufficient. That's important to do at a time like now. And folks, we'll see you Monday on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.